Okay, how's it going, y'all? This is another episode of this kind of solo podcast that I'm doing, thinking through things. And a lot of this is just a meditation, and it's for me to say things out loud that I probably have running through my head a lot. And specifically, the last 6 or so of these episodes, I've been talking about this new channel and this new sub-brand, I suppose, for my real estate team. And this is mostly for real estate agents and business owners. I'd be astonished if anybody else will listen to this. And if you're a real estate agent, I want to start by saying that I don't care what brokerage you're on, what brokerage you join, and I almost certainly don't want you on my team. And that is no offense intended. It's mostly that I've done a lot of work. I've made a lot of mistakes along the way to kind of realize what's important to me in a team and like how I want my business to exist. Also, partly I'm working on not using filler words. So every now and then I'm probably going to get in my head about using a filler word as I record this. I'm trying really hard not to have to cut. And this podcast and this format has really forced me to get quite a bit better at talking consistently, talking fluently without using filler words. And it's also somehow managed my brain to stay on track pretty well when I'm talking. That said, I'm still not perfect. That's probably my biggest fault when I'm speaking, when I'm recording video. I go on a dirt road and I forget where I was. I get lost. So this seems to be helpful. Now, naturally, I have some notes in front of me, so there's that. But right now, my notes are extremely limited. I'll show you my notes. Let's see. Can you even see them? Yeah, not really. It's like 3 sentences. So the thing that I'm working on right now is specifically trying to hash out what I'll allow myself to make on my newest channel, which it's funny, it's jumped around. It was called Jesse Lynch. It's called Make Minnesota. It's called Jesse Lynch Make Minnesota. I think it's just back to Jesse Lynch. And a lot of that has to do with what I'm giving myself space to make on the channel, what I'm allowing myself kind of creatively to create. And I suppose more like what am I giving myself permission for? And that's kind of what I want to work through right now. I just changed like the header and the photo on the channel, and I know that that's not really making progress, but some of it was working through kind of like the vibe and by changing a few things on the header, adding a couple little words that it says roads, humans, styles, homes. I'm not even sure that I love that, but that kind of opened up the categories that I'll be talking about or that I'll allow myself to talk about. And some of that is because I don't want to be relying on other people to make every video. I've talked about that before on the channel. And I want to find types of videos that I can make that fit on the channel that are at least like akin to the other videos, to where eventually the tone of the videos will, I think, also feel really natural. And what's interesting, it will probably just slowly morph into just being extremely genuine and just talking about stuff that I like. But the question is like, how do I just talk about that? It's funny how you're like, well, yeah, I'll just make videos about this. It's like, yeah, but how? the videos that we're trying to do are kind of pretty vlog style. They're trying to take their time and kind of meander in a focused way, trying to be very peaceful and somewhat meditative, because I really like watching that style of video, and I really connect with people when, rather than making 1,000 cuts, they press record and they sit down in front of the camera, and maybe not like this stupid concept that I'm doing on this, where it's like an hour, but a 5-minute clip where they press record and they just roll with it. That's really enticing, and it's something that I want to be able to do. And a lot of the reason that I haven't done it yet is because I feel like, well, I couldn't do that. I don't think I have like the gift of gab, but I do think I'm very focused. And so my ability to figure out how to speak for that amount of time, I think I can figure that out. But you can watch any of the To the Twin Cities videos. The huge majority of them have a lot of cuts, even in mid-sentences. Mid-sentence? Yeah, even in the middle of sentences. And some of that is just the style of the video, trying to be informative and quick and not waste time, I suppose. But that's also just how I started. If you look at the really old ones, like 5 years ago, it's even worse. And at some point, I kind of told editor, hey, chill a little bit on that. Like, allow me to pause and have those natural gaps, because I don't think that's bad. I think that's listenable, as long as they're not too bad. What do they call them? Pregnant pauses? They're not pregnant pauses. They're, just really organic, or trying to be really organic pauses, kind of like that. Again, I get so in my head when I'm thinking about how I'm talking. So I'm going to shift away from talking about that, because I'm just going to obsess about the pauses that I'm taking. And is that natural? So anyway, I've been making a couple videos on the channel, on the new channel. Let me check this really quick. Just got to make sure I have time on this card. Okay, I do. I've been working on, so I put out 2 videos so far. If you're watching this in the future, right now I've only released 2 videos. I've shot quite a few. I should look that up, because it's a pretty good amount. I have shot Rebecca, so it's kind of 2 of those, artisan home tour and another artisan home video. Day trip, so it's 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I've shot 8 videos, and yesterday kind of started shooting a 9th, but it didn't go anywhere. It just kind of, it was okay. I never feel bad if I'm working on a video and it doesn't go anywhere. I literally just, whatever, yeah, okay, then that won't become anything. And I started to make a video that really felt like it would belong more on this channel, but it also doesn't feel right for that channel. I started talking about how to use an iPhone. This is kind of funny. If you want me to make this video, let me know. How to use an iPhone to get maximum quality without having absurd file sizes. And a lot of that is the iPhone has a file format called Apple ProRes, which is the best. No, Apple ProRes RAW also, which is arguably the highest quality video format on the iPhone. But the file sizes suck. They are a nightmare to work with. And a lot of that is because I think I have a terabyte phone. It's not a little guy, but I use it so much to make video and take photo that I'm constantly battling a full phone. And I use iCloud, but it just automatically offloads files onto iCloud. And unless you're forcing its hand, you don't really have a say in how it does it. So then what happens is you record on a phone for a day or 2, you're working on a video, and then It's so annoying. And then half of those, or 3/4 of those, have been offloaded onto iCloud, and I'm trying to upload them to Dropbox, and there's no good way to do that. So I said, I'm super annoyed with ProRes, but it has a really desaturated and low contrast color profile, which is what I would use typically on like a professional camera like this one, except for these videos, because I'm trying to be easy, so I don't do that with these videos. But it allows more flexibility in the edit, and allows ultimately for something to like look a little bit more cinematic. But the Apple ProRes RAW files are huge. The color generally turns out really good, but I found a way to not make those files insane, which is through using an app called the Blackmagic Cam. And it allows you, obviously I said I'd make a video on this, but I feel like it's worth talking about. On the off chance that I'm a big believer in, like, you can use an iPhone and get really, really good quality. So this is a way to get good quality without the most annoying workflow. So you use Blackmagic Cam, which, by the way, if you have like a DJI Mic Mini, which is something I often use, especially on the other channel, that just the little mic can connect by Bluetooth to the phone, and in the Blackmagic Cam app, the audio will come up there, which it doesn't work that way on just the standard iPhone camera. I don't know why. It's very annoying, but it can on here. And if you go to settings and you go to codec, you can do H.264 or HEVC, which is H.265, rather than Apple ProRes or Apple ProRes RAW and all that crap. You can also choose to lower the bitrate, but I'm going highest bitrate possible, H.264, and then the color space, you say Apple log, Apple log HDR. And there's Rec 709, which I think is a really common one as well. And maybe I'll eventually use that. I'm not sure exactly. But it does spit out a very nice, I know you can't see this at all, but it spits out a very nice desaturated image that will edit considerably easier in the future. Anyway, I made that video and I was like, this video sucks. This is not a good video for this channel. This is not the right video for this audience. I just like didn't know what I was gonna do, right? And some days I just wake up, I start recording and I say, where's this gonna go? And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And it was okay, right? So it was like, okay, that didn't go anywhere. And there's also a little bit of like, I've been tossing around the idea of doing daily videos, daily vlogs for this new channel to like allow it to gain momentum. It's still something I'm thinking about, but the hard part right now is ideas. And I don't have enough ideas to wake up and just go shoot a video. And sometimes my days are too chaotic and it just doesn't work. Nice. Somebody on a motorcycle just blasting Lady Gaga. That's hilarious to me. So the coolest thing to possibly be listening to. So considering the daily vlog idea or the daily video, or there's one dude whose name I can't remember. It used to be Ecom Soup. His name's like David, something Italian is his last name. And really liked his videos, and he was doing daily videos. And I don't think he's doing that anymore, but he was doing every weekday. And so he would say new videos every weekday. And I find that pretty compelling as well, because I think there is a way that I could keep that, level of productivity up. It's just more about the ideas, especially for this new channel, which is yeah. Are
you gonna be here tomorrow around?
I think so.
Here? Okay. Same.
Okay. Is that good? Should I be here?
I mean, no, it's fine.
Okay. You're gonna record? You're gonna make video?
Yeah, I got like 3 lined up.
Okay. Sick.
Yeah, but I might go get my oil change in the morning, so maybe I'll come here like later if you're gonna come here. Doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
I'm not even sure I will, but I've been thinking about maybe I would come here to like watch Formula One or something.
It's like,
Yeah.
all right,
Cool.
I'm gonna roll if that's cool.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Cool.
See ya.
See you, dude. I'm gonna leave that in, by the way. So, there's a dirt road for you. So the idea of the daily vlog or the daily video or the weekday only video, it's enticing because it would allow me to like ramp up, and I find that really interesting. And because the channel's so new, there's a little bit of like impatience where you're like, well, I wish I could just get more videos out. That said, the workload for the editors is pretty tricky right now. And with those sort of vlog style videos, the turnarounds are taking a long time. And you know, those are things that I'm weighing. Like, well, how would I possibly pull that off? Would I need more editors? Is it worth having more editors? Can I do videos that are low effort edits? And then, well, what's the point, right? So trying to find the crossover of consistency and volume and quality with the resources that I have at my disposal. And keep in mind, I'm also doing the main channel to the Twin Cities, and I have to keep that rolling. That's the king, you know? So I have to keep that moving. And there's really no if I don't on that. And so that is a huge time suck sometimes. I recently, that's interesting. I said 8 videos. There's actually a 9th video in there that I really designed as a collaboration between the two. And it's an interesting video. It's like about how Minnesota is ranked one of the lowest stressed states in the country. It's like 49th out of 50, and second only to Nebraska. But which, by the way, shout out to Nebraska for that. But it took me like 3 days. I really took my time with it, and I think it'll be a good video. I don't think it will be like the best video I ever made, and who knows how it will do. YouTube is seeing some changes in viewership, and I don't think it's that less people are viewing. I think it's the algorithm is changing, and that's okay. Big deal, you know, we adapt and no sweat. And so some of the videos that I've made historically, they don't perform as well. The same format doesn't necessarily perform as well. And it could be many things. Could be just the intro, right? Could be just my intros are wrong. It could be a thumbnail should be better, right? There's so many little things that it could very well be. But I try not to obsess too much about like analytics and trying to figure it out. I just try to put out more, and I go, okay, that's not working that well. And I have a format that's very, very refillable, and I use it all the time. So I'm just gonna like slowly tweak every time I do one. I'm gonna slowly tweak those, and a lot of those videos are designed to be a resource rather than a lead magnet. And they are naturally like a lead magnet, but they aren't the videos that attract people to the channel. So maybe I've talked about this on this channel. I apologize if I have, and you've heard me talk about this. I had a Zoom call with a gal who found me from this channel, and kind of most specifically from these videos, which I thought was really interesting, because I know I'm not trying to make these videos searchable per se. I'm not trying to make these videos like good for the algorithm. And so it was interesting her name was Leona, and it was interesting for her to find these videos and find them interesting and to reach out from them. We had a really good conversation, very, very honest about everything. You know, I'm not trying to add people to my team. I think Real Broker's a really good brokerage. It was, you know, a lot of that, but then really we just talked about kind of her plan for her channel and her real estate business, which is just about to get started. And I thought it was a really good conversation for one. So, if you're watching this, hi, thanks for that. We talked about maybe recording the next conversation that we have, maybe like once she's licensed and once she's like starting to go, because I think there are little things that when I was talking with her, there were just little nudges that I thought I could say, yeah, like maybe you have this idea in mind, here's how I think you could do it, or here's how I do it that I think would work really well for you. And it was just really good conversation for that. I actually kind of wished we were recording it. Like when it was all done, I'm like, oh, that would have been good. That would have been good, like just in place of one of these. But we talked about a few things. There was a couple things that I made a note about that I said, I want to make sure that I'm going to write that down so that I talk about it on kind of the next solo pod. And with that, we talked a little bit about this new channel and my goals with it, but we were focused on hers entirely. So mentally, right now in this video, I'm going to get back to that channel. So there's a few things that I've been interested in kind of like adding to the channel, or just like lanes or like buckets of content that I thought, that would be fun to do. And some of that is like style, like fashion, which fashion is weird, but like I think that could be a fun bucket to talk about. And it might be hyper specific. So that's kind of one of the challenges that I'm thinking about. If I was going to make, this is like the reality. If I was just going to make a channel about style and fashion, I would lean into like style for big dudes, basically, and I would make that the niche. There's not that many of those video channels out on YouTube. I have looked as somebody who is a big dude and is interested in that. There are a couple people, but some of it is like none of them really look like me. I'm 6'4" and big. I'm just big, right? and so finding brands that work for big guys is really, really hard. That said, there's like big and tall stores, which I don't go to because I don't think they look good most of the time. So it's more so, how do you find a brand that like sizes up to the size that I need, which depending on the brand could be a huge range, because that's how clothes work. But could I actually make a channel that's only about that? Is there actually like that many videos? Let's say, is there 52 videos a year that I could make on that? Because when I'm like, well, yeah, it's hard to find these brands. It's like, yeah, it is. So how many brands could I talk about that would work? And then, that actually like work on bigger guys. Yeah, it's tricky. I also have like one of the biggest issues typically with clothing is usually there's a size that like will fit me. I don't want to say usually, about half the time there's a size that will fit me, this way, but then it doesn't fit me height wise. And I have a tall torso. Again, I'm tall, but it's like the combination of those things. Finding stuff that like isn't a belly shirt or isn't a blouse is a really, really difficult challenge. So I guess I wonder, is it not the right niche to talk about that on this channel? Is it just like a completely different audience? Or could it be? If it's just the stuff that I like, and that's like an extension of one of the things that I like, and I think eventually, if people are watching this and they like identify with me for the things that I'm interested in, like motorcycle rides and cool houses and road trips and cool small towns, restaurants, coffee shops, maybe like art, tattoos, music. I don't know about tattoos. I don't know how much I would actually talk about tattoos. Music, style, maybe things like watches. I don't know. I don't drink. I never have. I have thoughts about that stuff, but nothing. I don't think nothing too interesting. And I tend to think that my opinions or my outlooks on certain things are like not enough people will identify with them. There's a kind of the issue that I'm having. It's not really an issue. I have a truck, a car, a vehicle called an Ineos Grenadier. It's cool. You can check. It's in that other video or that other channel, but I call it the Granny. So I'm just going to call it the Granny. That car is really cool, and I kind of hate it. And it's one of those things where people see it and they're like, "Oh, that's really cool. Like, how do you like it?" And I'm like, it's cool, but I don't love it. And the people who are asking me that, it's like they want to be convinced. They want to hear me say like, it's awesome. This car's so cool. And I'm like, it is cool, but there's practical things about it that I don't enjoy. And I guess while we're on the topic, what I've ultimately realized, and maybe I'll make videos about the Granny on the other channel, what I've ultimately realized is that I think I can have a lot more fun for less money. I think, and I've already proven that by buying the motorcycle. And the motorcycle, it's a Royal Enfield Interceptor 650. I know I've already talked about that. They're like $5,000 new motorcycles. They're really simple. And they're what's called like a modern classic, and they're barely modern, right? There's only a few little like tech things on them. Tech is the wrong word. There's like analog brakes and fuel injection. Those are like kind of the new things about them. And otherwise it's a really similar bike to what was made in the 70s. And that's what I really love about it. But it's a $5,000 motorcycle. And I have more fun on that than I do in the Granny, which is don't even know if I should say. The cheapest Granny is probably like $66,000, and mine is not the cheapest. Mine's a Trial Master, which is cool. So I go, okay. It's basically my question about the Granny is like, well, when does that run its course? Anyway, back to the other video. So, or the greater concept about these videos. Do I allow myself to talk about the Grenadier and say, hey, I've owned this for a year, like honest review. It's like, this is not an automobile channel, but will people who like these other videos find that interesting? I don't know. Will the people who search for a video like that decide to subscribe to my channel because they like the general things that I'm talking about? Like the span of things that I'm talking about. Road trips, craftsmanship, fashion, houses, interior design, sort of like design. Will they find that interesting, or are they just looking for a channel about cars, or even more specifically about the Ineos Grenadier? Because that ain't gonna be. I don't think that's gonna be this channel for very long, And then like the motorcycle, really good example. Part of me is like, oh, it'd be fun to have a motorcycle channel, but I live in Minnesota, and half the year you can't ride a motorcycle in Minnesota, so kind of pointless, Maybe not pointless, but I'd run out, I'd run out of time to talk about motorcycles, and I don't just want to like sit on a computer and talk about motorcycles. So to me, the fun part about motorcycles is the road trip and building that into the video, the sort of the POV style, and just kind of the aesthetic of all that. And again, I think I can include motorcycle, the Granny, if I sell the Granny, why I'm selling the Granny, and then what do I get after that, if I get anything, which I think I will. I don't think the pickup truck is cool enough to talk about that much, to be honest, but it will just exist. Ram 1500. There's a lot of them, and I don't think I have that enough knowledge, honestly, to talk about that. It's mostly like a character, because the knowledge that I have is like, this truck rules. This truck is so comfortable. It is a workhorse, and yeah, you don't have to be precious. You don't have to be a baby about it. So the Granny, on the other hand, it's really cool. It's not that comfortable. There are things about it that kind of suck. They may not suck. There are things about it that are not that practical for daily use. And yeah, I have a truck that I like to drive more. So I like to drive more often, I should say. I do love to drive the Granny. It's just not a good daily driver for some reasons. And some of that is just that I need a pickup bed. And anyway, I think I could have more fun with less money. The motorcycle proved that. And yeah, so like, would that be a good video? I think it could be. I think as somebody who doesn't even have to want or be interested in the Ineos Grenadier, I think I could still make a video about that interesting enough. If people are following it because they generally like agree with me in the things that I like, right? And then there's kind of the whole Make Minnesota, or that series where I want to be talking to business owners and kind of the coolest businesses in general in the Twin Cities. And I still really love that idea, and it's something I really do want to do, and will continue to do. I just need more ideas than that. I need the flexibility to not only do that, because I'm not trying to be, there's the classic, like the real estate world, there are people who teach the idea, and I feel like Gary Vee is one of the first people to ever really talk about it. They talk about like being the mayor of your town. And you interview, restaurant owners and business owners in general, and you're kind of like, hey, let me, doing similar things to what the Make Minnesota idea is, which is featuring the craftsmen and the businesses and the, artists who are just doing the coolest stuff. And some of that is that some of where I feel I really need to be careful about on that is making sure that I really am a big fan of these companies, right? So it's kind of cool. I've already been able to like sneak in. There's the builder, right? City Homes. There's kind of Artisan Home Tour in general. So a bunch of different builders there. Those are kind of just snuck in as characters. But then there's Mill Race Motorcycle Club, which I've done kind of 2 videos on. One is that I joined a thing called Mill Race. It's cool. They do car storage, but they also have kind of a social club aspect a social club aspect, which is very cool. And then like a week later, I went to their like garage party, like a launch for their new storage spot, which is super cool. It's in St. Louis Park, and it was fun. It was fun to make a video like leading up to that, and then talking about that. And then after that, I did one about Leatherworks Minnesota, but they weren't like featured, right? In the same way that Mill Race wasn't either. I didn't talk to the owners in those videos. I just went there. I mean, I've talked to the owner there, but Minnesota, or Leatherworks Minnesota, for example, I didn't talk to the owner. I just went there and bought a wallet, and that was part of a story. And I got to talk about the product and like what I thought was cool about it and whatever, and that was fun. And so I want to be able to do these like little pop buys where they're just part of a story of a day, of a vlog or something like that. And then I also want to do these more like vignettes where I'm like really featuring a business and talking to the business owner and like making something cool for them that I think they'll be proud of. So yeah, that's like an interesting concept to like play with, that I have kind of both of those at my disposal, and just about any just about any video I make, I could just pop into places and kind of very loosely kind of shout out, you know, this business. And yeah, I mean, and so I guess, side note, did you know that your hand can get so dry, your skin can get so dry that the fingerprint in Mac will stop recognizing it as your fingerprint? Pretty crazy. That happened to me recently, and I've been dealing with the Touch ID just not working, so I had to keep typing it in. And today I finally like just redid it, said, okay, well, here's my finger again, and it was like, there you go. So yeah, kind of wild. Also makes sense. Of course, my fingers are dry all the time. So anyway, so some of this, again, kind of waxing about what can I allow myself to talk about. Can a video about fashion and style and like how I choose what clothes to buy, you know, as a big guy, and or like more broadly, like men's fashion for, you know, tall guys, men's fashion for, yeah, big guys, whatever. Like, can I make separate videos about, you know, here are some main, you know, concepts that I use. Here are some of my favorite brands. Is that video dumb, right? Or does that fit in really nicely to everything else? I think it could fit in really well, especially if I wanted to get into like anything vaguely automotive, you know, the motorcycle gloves and helmet, and kind of like do some like reviews. But again, I don't think I think that's too national, and I'm trying to be somewhat local. But it's weird because at the same time could I not be super location specific, and would I attract more people to the channel? Would the channel do better if I'm just, you know, if these are just these concepts, fashion for men, you know, motorcycles and cars and road trips and photography? Could I just attract more people to that channel? And then ultimately, because the channel is more broadly viewable, could it have a larger local audience as well? Because then also like the metro, Minnesota, becomes a character in the video because I'm in it all the time. I'm talking about it. I'm doing road trips in it. So yeah, there's that's, does that make sense? I know I'm talking to myself, but that's the two things that I'm kind of like fighting against. Do I make this channel hyper local and everything is about Minnesota, or do I make it broad and, you know, and make the channel viewable for somebody who lives in Europe, if they found it interesting, and who had no intention of ever moving to Minnesota, but by virtue of making this channel wider, could it actually work better on a local level? Because also then can I work it up to a level where it's one of the bigger, you know, channels talking about Minnesota, and so people who live here follow it because they're like, oh, that's cool, you know, somebody in Minnesota talking about the stuff that I care about. So yeah, and I'm trying to use this channel. I'm trying to use, you know, I guess what I'm going back and forth about right now is kind of that question of, in the long run, I really have no intention on moving from Minnesota. So it's not like, well, what if I move? Then my channel is done. I don't really think I'll move. But there's part of me that like wants to live in Europe for a year or 6 months or something like that. You know, I like the idea of being able to do something like that, and then continuing to make videos on the channel that are, again, not specific to Minnesota. You know, I'm getting married in May in Iceland, and then we're doing a honeymoon, pretty long one. And so in my head, I'm like, well, maybe I should talk to my fiance about this, but in my head, I'm like, well, that would be a fun place to make videos too. Like those would be really, really fun videos. Not the wedding. I don't think I'll be doing that too much, but maybe leading up to the wedding, it could be fun. And a lot of it is just like, again, these are probably conversations I should have with her. But like, some of this is like, I want to be able to look back on these memories. We all love to look back at old photos, but how cool to be able to have like a video that is put together, that's full of little memories and little moments and snapshots of us at certain times. You know, if we have kids, how cool would it be for them to be able to watch a video of us like on our honeymoon, you know, or a year after our honeymoon going on a road trip. And, you know, like, just to me that seems so interesting. I would love to see something like that of my parents, of a time when they were married, you know, and it would be really, really interesting. Especially for a healthy relationship, I suppose. So the more that I'm talking, the more that I can feel that I'm trying to convince myself that I want to do something that is wide, and that Minnesota is a character in which Minnesota is a character. And local businesses that I'm talking about, it's not the mayor, hey, I'm the mayor of the Twin Cities. I'm telling stories. I happen to be in the Twin Cities. I happen to really like the Twin Cities. And I have all of these cool people, cool businesses at my fingertips with whom I can talk, you know, with whom I can commiserate or whatever. And then it's kind of just a personality brand, which I wonder, would that be exhausting to, you know, would it be exhausting to be Peter McKinnon, for example, or Casey Neistat? Or would it be really fun, you know? And if it's not really fun, well, there's a lot of, you know, it probably would stop being, I could only really see it stop being fun for if one, it doesn't take up at all and you feel like you're banging your head against the wall for a really long time. Two, if it takes off and it really affects your ability to like move freely throughout the world. And I tend to think that like most of those people they're not that level of famous where they can't go out, you know, but I don't know, hard to say. So it's funny to even be like waxing poetic about that, but because that doesn't seem like a thing that would happen. And I just don't foresee that, right? That's not the goal. The goal would be to find a way to, for one, for this channel to attract people to my real estate team. So then also talking about real estate, kind of vlogging certain real estate activities, and again, making real estate a character in or a bucket on the channel, and letting people naturally kind of flock toward the team because of that personality marketing. And some of what I've been really thinking about is like, how is there a way that I can like never make the ask, never make the request of, hey, work with my real estate team? You know, can it be, as like Gary Vee would say, can it be jab, 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 never right hook? And, you know, just give. and people naturally gravitate toward it because it's this very genuine brand that is helpful and entertaining, and that's it. And to the extent that I'm asking people to work with us, or to the extent that there's any effort put into that, the goal for me would be for it to almost feel invisible. The ask is never blatant. And yeah, how do you do that? I find that I just find that super, super compelling. And I think I'm going to lean that way. I'm going to lean toward a wide channel in which Minnesota is a character. And maybe there is still the series. I think there still will be the series Make Minnesota. But how invisible can I make it? Well, that's probably the wrong way of saying it. How invisible can I make the marketing of it? Is there just a way for it just to be a cool, fun channel that somebody would watch regardless of ever wanting to work with us? But then if there was an overlap of somebody watching it who did want to work with us, that they would know how to work with us. Hard to say. I know for sure on the To the Twin Cities channel, which works extremely well as a marketing tool and also is just very fun and attracts a lot of people, attracts a lot of clients. It's the main way we get clients, is by being helpful on YouTube. We do make an ask every single video. And I've been playing around a lot with when that ask happens. And it used to happen probably within the first minute and a half of the video. I'm pushing that back a little bit for a lot of these videos, maybe in the 5-minute mark. And then there's also kind of a really abbreviated ask at the end of just about every video. So that is, and I don't feel bad about that, right? It's hey, you're watching this because you're asking these questions, which means there's a really good likelihood that you need what we do. And so then the ask, I don't have any reservations the right hook, the ask of us, hey, work with us, we'd love to help you. It doesn't feel like an ask. It just feels like, hey, you're here looking for this stuff, we can continue to help you. And so then, is there a way? Yeah, I don't know, because the overlap is somewhat small, right? So if I'm doing a video about fashion, what percentage of somebody who's watching that is at all interested in buying a home in Minnesota? Probably pretty low. But if the number can be big enough, the viewership of a video can be big enough, because it's a widely searchable style of video, then does it matter that it's only a really small percentage of the folks who are watching it, because the total viewership would be a lot higher. And then there's also other questions about is there a way to monetize it on a national level? That's really hard with real estate. It would only be through finding referrals all over the country, referral agents to whom I could say, hey, I have a client, looking to buy in Tennessee or Florida or something. And that's kind of a whole business structure on its own. And I just don't know that ask would be particularly compelling. And I tend to think if people wanted to Zoom with me and they were living in God knows where, it just wouldn't be a good use of my time, and it would be a kind of a distraction for me, and I think it would ultimately wear on me, and I wouldn't want to keep doing it. So maybe I could be really clear about how that works, on a national level. Again, a little tricky. And if I default to still doing a lot about Minnesota, which it still will be, again, I'm going to do road trips to small towns in Minnesota. How many people are going to watch that, who aren't from Minnesota, who aren't looking for a cool day trip or something like that? I don't know. Probably not that many people. But if it's if I'm making videos that are reviews of an Ineos Grenadier and people go, oh, I like these videos, even though they're about a place that I don't live, or even though they're in a place that I don't live, is that okay? I don't see why not. Like, I think Peter McKinnon, Maddie Hapoya, I think they live in like London, Ontario. I've never been. I don't know that I'll ever go, but it's like outside Toronto, I think. But they're not really, he'll talk about, hey, there's this coffee shop or something that we opened, or that I know the people of, and that's cool, to have those characters in the show, because you need characters and you need, settings, but does it convert to anything beyond that? How do you monetize that? Or in my case, obviously Peter McKinnon has monetized it, but how do you monetize it for a real estate team? So, yeah, it's crazy. It's what a wild thing to try to think through. And I think I'm going to go that route while still trying to make videos that are your majority hyper-local, but allowing myself to make videos that are broader. And while making videos that are hyper-local, don't make them unwatchable to people who are not interested in Minnesota or moving to Minnesota. So, a road trip, for example. A good road trip video, if you like the person, if you like the people involved, it's just a good road trip video. It doesn't really matter where they are that much. Especially if it's beautiful, which Minnesota is a lot of the year. And yeah, cinematic and good story, and that's generally, I think those things are achievable. Yeah, it's just a matter of, is the overlap too wonky? Does it not make sense? Is it just a channel that has nothing to do with or no benefit at all on the real estate team? Big question. Am I taking my eye off the ball of the real estate team? Hard to say. I don't think so. I think as long as I can create some of those core kind of pillars, which maybe that is a core, I'm going to type that down, pillar videos, specifically pillars that feed or help to the Twin Cities. So, to the Twin Cities is, I think of there's the funnel concept, which I know I've talked about on this channel before. There's the sort of business funnel, you have top of funnel people who are vaguely interested but not even close to prepared to buy whatever product you're selling. And then there's bottom of funnel people who are really close, who are prepared to buy, and you just, if you catch somebody at the bottom of the funnel, there's a higher likelihood of them converting soon. And so it's really hard to catch everybody at the bottom of the funnel, right? The YouTube in general is pretty dang good. The To the Twin Cities channel, most of those folks are pretty bottom of funnel. Well, no, the people who reach out are pretty bottom of funnel, obviously. But a lot of people watch and they're not even interested in moving, and they're leaving shitty comments about what they've heard in the news about Minnesota. But the top of funnel are broader video ideas, more searchable video ideas that are more like generic questions that are really early in the stage of somebody deciding to move, right? They might go, I want to move, right? So we do talk to people who live in, let's say they live in Texas, and by the time they reach out to us, they say, yeah, we've wanted to move for 4 or 5 years, or we've wanted to move for 2 years. And And we say, well, how'd you decide Minnesota? And they say, we just looked a bunch. We knew we wanted to move. We wanted to get out of Texas. And so we started to do research. And, well, what was your short list? And some people were like, yeah, we had a 5-city short list. It was Boston, Chicago, Minneapolis, Kansas City, typically like Midwestern, often more affordable. Not that Boston's that affordable, or Chicago for that matter, but let's say like more liberal or whatever, for whatever reason they're trying to get out. And then they found us, they found our videos years ago. And so like, what are those questions they're asking? It's actually making me think like maybe political video, but I hate talking about politics. Political video done cleverly. So we'll see. Let's say there are video ideas. Cost of living in the Twin Cities. Minneapolis versus St. Paul. That's probably a little further down the funnel, but like, what's it like to live in Minnesota? Like, those are really big questions. Is Minnesota a good place to live? Maybe that's a good one. It's funny, I think in titles all the time. But like, that's how people search, right? And that's why titles should kind of be based on search. So then you make a video like that and people go, okay, that's interesting. And now I have this resource. And so we make these top of funnel videos that are these broader questions. And then once somebody's genuinely considering Minnesota, then we have all these what I consider like really bottom of funnels where they're just resources. They're not even videos that do well on the algorithm, with the algorithm. They don't do well, and that's okay. I know they're not going to do well. But it's, you gotta having that resource is really, really important, and people really value it. And then by the time we're watching a video that's about like a small neighborhood where they found a house on Zillow, and they typed in like, oh, what's Nokomis, Minneapolis like? And you're like, we have a video on Nokomis, and people are like, cool, nice resource to have. And also like nobody else potentially has something quite so specific. So you're like just building that resource library so that once somebody has clicked, in and they're interested vaguely in what you're doing, now you have the most specific resources for them, and you're kind of like showing them, they're like, we're really good. We know a ton, and we know as much about the metro as literally anybody. And so, yeah. So that's bottom of funnel. And then the question of, can this other channel be top of funnel for even almost like more top of funnel than the top of funnel of To the Twin Cities? Because it's kind of like, hey, this is me doing stuff in Minnesota. It's more like maybe people would watch it and go, Minnesota looks pretty cool. Or hey, we want to move. Where should we move? And you go, wow, there's a guy I watch who makes videos in Minnesota, and that looks pretty nice. So, can that channel be a top of funnel to the top of funnel of To the Twin Cities? And I guess we'll see. All right, I gotta get going. I'm going to dinner at Stock and Bond. If you're watching this far, look it up. Stock and Bond, Minneapolis. It's like an old stock room, like stock brokers, fancy guys. And it's a beautiful, beautiful restaurant. So going there with my buddy Bradford. All right, see y'all.